Opening. Love as a daily practice. Welcome to Mindfulness, a space where we explore the art of living deeply and loving fully. When I first read the words of Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh, they didn't feel like lofty philosophy. They felt like warm sunlight on a cold morning, simple, direct, and alive. He wrote that to love is not just to feel something, it's to practice something. And that changed everything for me. In the West, we often talk about love as a spark, a chemistry, an instant connection. But Thich Nhat Hanh, along with American teachers like Jack Kornfield and Sharon Salzberg, remind us that love is more like tending a garden. You don't just feel it once and hope it lasts. You water it, nourish it, protect it from weeds. And perhaps the most overlooked garden of all is the one inside ourselves. I remember a time when I was working endlessly, my days a blur of deadlines and obligations. My relationships felt distant, not because I didn't care, but because I had nothing left to give. It wasn't until I slowed down, sitting for 10 minutes each morning, simply breathing and placing my hand over my heart, that I realized I hadn't spoken kindly to myself in years. That was my first taste of what Thich Nhat Hanh calls true love, a love rooted in presence, understanding, and compassion. In his teachings, he speaks about 4 elements of true love: loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. But these are not abstract ideals. They are actions. Loving kindness means learning to speak to yourself the way you would to a dear friend. Compassion means being patient with your own wounds as you heal. Joy is allowing yourself to fully enjoy a simple moment, a cup of tea, a warm smile, the way sunlight dances on the wall. And equanimity is the quiet strength to love without clinging or controlling. American mindfulness teachers often echo this truth. Sharon Salzberg teaches that love is a muscle. It grows when we use it. Jack Kornfield says that love is the most natural state, but we must keep returning to it when life pulls us away. Together, they remind us that love is not fragile. It's resilient if we tend to it. The challenge, of course, is that love also meets pain. We love and lose. We love and get hurt. We love and get misunderstood. And so, Thich Nhat Hanh offers another gentle reminder. Pain is not the opposite of love. It's part of it. When we open our hearts, we open them to everything. The key is learning how to stay open without being overwhelmed. For me, that has meant learning to pause. When a harsh word comes my way, I breathe before I react. When I make a mistake, I place a hand on my heart instead of pointing a finger at myself. These little acts are not glamorous, but they change everything. Over time, they've taught me that love is not something you wait to feel. It's something you choose to do. In the next part, we'll look deeper at how to practice this kind of love in everyday life, starting with the most important relationship you will ever have, the one with yourself. Loving yourself first. Thich Nhat Hanh often said, if you are not able to love yourself, you will not be able to love anyone else. At first, this might sound self-centered to some, especially in a culture that praises selflessness. But when we look closely, it's not about ego, it's about foundation. Without a strong inner base, our love for others becomes shaky, conditional, or easily exhausted. When I first started practicing mindfulness, I thought loving myself meant buying small treats, taking spa days, or giving myself permission to rest. Those things can be wonderful, but self-love runs deeper. It's about the way we speak to ourselves when no one is listening. It's the inner voice we hear when we make a mistake. Is it gentle or is it cruel? Thich Nhat Hanh's approach to self-love is disarmingly simple. Stop running away from yourself. Instead of distracting ourselves with work, entertainment, or busyness, he invites us to sit quietly and be with ourselves. This can be uncomfortable at first. Our minds are full of self-criticism, regret, and old wounds. But it is in this stillness that we can begin to see our own suffering with compassion, the way we might comfort a crying child. American Buddhist teacher Tara Brach calls this practice radical acceptance. She encourages us to meet whatever we're feeling with two things: mindfulness and kindness. Mindfulness says, this is what is happening right now. Kindness says, and that's okay. I am still worthy of love. Together, they create a space where healing can begin. One of the simplest exercises I learned from Thich Nhat Hanh is the hugging meditation, not with someone else, but with yourself. You place your arms around your body, breathe in, and say silently, I am here for you. You breathe out and say, I care for you. It sounds almost too simple, yet it can bring tears to your eyes if you've been ignoring yourself for too long. Self-love is also about boundaries. Loving yourself means knowing when to say no, even to people you care about. Jack Kornfield teaches that boundaries are an act of kindness, not rejection. They protect both you and your relationships. Without them, resentment grows and love becomes heavy. Another practice is to replace harsh self-talk with nourishing words. Imagine speaking to yourself the way you would to a close friend going through a difficult time. You wouldn't say, you're a failure, or you'll never get this right. You might say, this is hard, but you're doing your best, or you made a mistake, but that doesn't define you. These are not empty affirmations. They are truths that nurture growth instead of shutting it down. It's important to remember that loving yourself is not a one-time achievement. It's a daily practice. Some days it feels easy, others it feels impossible. But every small choice matters. The choice to rest instead of push past exhaustion. The choice to forgive instead of punish. The choice to speak kindly instead of harshly. In time, something shifts. You start carrying yourself differently. You become less dependent on other people's approval. And most beautifully, your love for others becomes freer, less tangled with fear or need. In the next part, we'll explore how this inner love naturally extends outward, transforming the way we connect with others in both big and small ways. Extending love to others. Once we begin to nurture love within ourselves, something almost magical happens. It overflows. Thich Nhat Hanh often compared love to a lamp. If the lamp is lit within you, it naturally shines on others without you forcing it. And the brighter that inner light, the more it can illuminate even the darkest corners of someone else's life. But extending love to others is not simply about being nice all the time. It's about cultivating a deep presence and understanding. In his book, True Love, Thich Nhat Hanh writes, understanding is the essence of love. To truly love someone, we must understand their suffering, and that requires listening without judgment. I remember a friend who called me late at night, her voice trembling with stress. My first instinct was to offer solutions, to fix her problem. But I paused and remembered Thich Nhat Hanh's teaching on compassionate listening. So instead, I just listened. I didn't interrupt. I didn't analyze. I simply said, I hear you. And that sounds so hard. By the end of the conversation, her voice had softened, not because her problem was solved, but because she felt seen. American meditation teacher Sharon Salzberg calls this loving kindness in action. It's the practice of silently wishing well for others, even in everyday moments, a smile to a stranger, patience with a coworker, genuine gratitude to a cashier. These small acts may seem insignificant, but they ripple outward in ways we can't always see. Sometimes extending love means holding space for someone's anger or pain without taking it personally. Jack Kornfield teaches that when someone lashes out, they are often revealing their own unhealed wounds. Responding with patience instead of retaliation can transform the moment, and sometimes even the relationship. One practice Thich Nhat Hanh recommends is metta meditation, where you silently repeat phrases like, may you be safe, may you be healthy, may you be happy, may you live with ease. You start with yourself, then extend the wishes to loved ones, acquaintances, and even people you struggle with. Over time, this practice softens resentment and strengthens empathy. Extending love doesn't mean ignoring harm or avoiding conflict. Boundaries still matter, and compassion sometimes means having difficult conversations. But when love is the foundation, even hard truths can be spoken with respect and care. The beautiful thing is, when you show love in this way, through presence, listening, kindness, it doesn't just affect others, it circles back to you. Neuroscience research from American universities shows that acts of kindness release oxytocin, often called the love hormone, in both the giver and the receiver. In other words, when you give genuine love, you are also healing yourself. In the next part, we'll explore how love can exist even in conflict, and how mindful communication can transform difficult moments into opportunities for deeper connection. Love in times of conflict. It's easy to feel loving when everyone is smiling, agreeing, and making life comfortable for us. But what about when tensions rise? When words cut? When misunderstandings harden into silence? Thich Nhat Hanh often said, "The quality of our love is tested in the moments we find hardest to love." Conflict doesn't mean love has failed. It's an invitation to love differently. In the West, we often treat disagreement as a battle to win. But mindfulness invites us to see conflict as a bridge to understanding, if we are willing to walk it slowly and carefully. I once had a falling out with a close friend over a small misunderstanding that somehow grew into weeks of hurt. My instinct was to defend myself, to explain my side until she saw the truth. But Thich Nhat Hanh's teaching on deep listening and loving speech echoed in my mind. He says that when emotions are high, our first task is not to prove we're right, but to restore connection. So I called her, not to argue, but to listen. I said, "I want to understand how you felt," and then I stayed quiet. That pause, soft, deliberate, allowed something to open between us. American mindfulness teacher Tara Brach calls this the sacred pause. It's a moment to step out of our reactive patterns, take a breath, and choose words that heal instead of harm. Neuroscience research supports this. Pausing even a few seconds before responding can shift the brain from fight or flight mode into a calmer, more compassionate state. Thich Nhat Hanh teaches a practice called beginning anew for mending relationships. It has 3 parts. 1, express appreciation. Share something you genuinely value about the other person. 2, acknowledge your own mistakes, even small ones without excuses. 3, express your hurt mindfully. Speak from the heart, focusing on your feelings rather than accusations. For example, instead of saying, "You never listened to me," you might say, "When I felt unheard, I felt lonely." This shift keeps the door open for connection rather than pushing it shut. Jack Kornfield often reminds his students, in the end, forgiveness is not about the other person. It's about setting your own heart free. Forgiving doesn't mean we condone harm or erase boundaries. It means we choose not to carry the weight of resentment longer than we need to. Love in conflict is active. It requires patience, curiosity, and courage. It might mean taking a break to cool down before speaking, writing a heartfelt letter instead of sending a sharp text, or simply sitting in silence together until the storm passes. When we practice this kind of love, we discover something powerful. Relationships don't grow because they never face storms. They grow because they learn to weather them. And each time we navigate conflict with compassion, the roots of our connection grow deeper. In the next part, we'll explore how love is not only for people we know, but can extend to strangers, communities, and even the world at large, turning daily life into an unending field of compassion. Love beyond the circle. Thich Nhat Hanh often reminded us that our capacity to love doesn't stop at our family or close friends. True love has no boundaries. It can extend to the barista who hands us our coffee, the driver who cuts us off in traffic, even to people we will never meet. In his words, our love must grow like a tree, not just a few leaves here and there, but branches reaching in all directions. I once had a morning when everything went wrong. The alarm didn't ring. I spilled coffee on my shirt, and traffic was unbearable. By the time I reached the grocery store, I was ready to snap at anyone who crossed my path. But at the checkout, the cashier smiled and said, "Rough day?" in such a warm, understanding tone that it completely softened my mood. It was a small gesture, but it reminded me that kindness from a stranger can shift the entire atmosphere of a day. In the United States, many mindfulness teachers speak about loving kindness as a radical social practice. Sharon Salzberg describes it as planting seeds of goodwill wherever we go, not just with people we like or agree with. It's about seeing the shared humanity beneath our differences. Thich Nhat Hanh's interbeing teaching makes this even more profound. We are all connected. The air we breathe, the food we eat, the water we drink. These come from countless beings and elements working together. When we recognize this, it becomes natural to wish well for everyone, because in some way, their well-being is our own. One of my favorite exercises is to bring mindful attention to strangers in daily life. In a park, at a cafe, or walking down the street, I silently offer phrases like, "May you be safe. May you be at peace. May you live with ease." They never hear the words, but something in my own heart changes. I feel more open, more connected, less isolated in my own thoughts. Jack Kornfield teaches that this widening circle of compassion can also change how we engage with the world's problems. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by suffering, whether it's poverty, injustice, or environmental damage, we can take small, loving actions within our reach. Donate to a cause, volunteer an hour, offer a kind word to someone in distress. Love becomes not just a feeling, but a form of service. Of course, it's not always easy to love beyond our circle. Strangers can be rude. The news can fill us with frustration toward people we disagree with. But Thich Nhat Hanh says, when you understand the suffering of the other person, you have no choice but to love. If we look deeply, we see that every unkind act is rooted in someone's own pain, confusion, or fear. When we practice loving beyond the circle, we're not just making the world kinder, we're making ourselves freer. We stop dividing the world into us and them and begin to live in a way that feels more spacious, more compassionate, more alive. In the next part, we'll explore how to keep love alive in long-term relationships, whether romantic, familial, or friendships, so that it grows instead of fading over time. Keeping love alive over time. It's easy to love in the beginning. New relationships, whether romantic, familial, or friendships, are filled with excitement, warmth, and curiosity. But over time, daily routines set in. Familiarity can make us take each other for granted. The small acts of care that once felt natural can fade into the background. Thich Nhat Hanh warns, the most precious gift you can offer another person is your presence. Yet in long-term relationships, presence is often the first thing we lose. I once heard American meditation teacher Jack Kornfield say that in love, it's not what you do once in a while, it's what you do every day that matters. A relationship thrives not from grand gestures once a year, but from small, consistent acts of kindness and attention. One practice from Thich Nhat Hanh that has transformed many relationships is called tea meditation. It's simple. Set aside a few minutes each week to share tea or coffee together without phones, without multitasking, without rushing. You sit, you breathe, you truly look at each other. The tea becomes an excuse for what's really happening. You are making space to be present. Long-term love also means being willing to continually learn about the other person. We sometimes assume we know everything about our partner, sibling, or friend because we've known them for years. But as Sharon Salzberg reminds us, everyone is a changing river. The person you love today is not exactly the same person they were yesterday. Staying curious keeps the connection fresh. Conflict, of course, will still arise, but couples and friends who last know how to repair quickly. Thich Nhat Hanh suggests 3 magic phrases that can dissolve tension. I am sorry. I forgive you. I love you. They are simple, but they open the door for healing before resentment takes root. Another way to keep love alive is through gratitude, not just feeling it, but expressing it out loud. In my own relationships, I've noticed how even a quick, "I appreciate you for" can shift the energy instantly. Neuroscience shows that gratitude strengthens the bond between people and increases feelings of mutual trust. Jack Kornfield often speaks about loving what's imperfect. Over time, we see each other's flaws more clearly. The early glow of romance or friendship fades into the reality of quirks, habits, and differences. But love deepens when we choose to embrace those imperfections as part of the whole. This doesn't mean ignoring harm or avoiding growth. It means loving someone not only for their strengths, but also for their humanness. Keeping love alive is not about holding on to the exact same feeling you had on day one. It's about letting love evolve. Sometimes it becomes quieter, steadier, less dramatic, but also deeper, like the roots of a tree that grow stronger over the years. In the next and final part, we'll reflect on how the practice of love toward ourselves, others, and the world becomes a way of living, and how mindfulness can be a companion on that journey. Love as a way of life. By now, we've journeyed through many phases of love, loving ourselves, extending love to others, keeping it alive in conflict, widening it beyond our circle, and nurturing it over time. Thich Nhat Hanh's teachings remind us that love is not a fleeting feeling or a poetic ideal. It is a practice, a daily choice, a way of walking through the world. When love becomes a way of life, it infuses everything. It's in the way we greet the morning, at the way we listen to a friend, the way we treat a stranger, and the way we respond to our own mistakes. It's not about perfection, it's about intention. Even on the days we fall short, love invites us to try again. In America, mindfulness teachers like Sharon Salzberg, Jack Kornfield, and Tara Brach echo the same truth. Love is not something you find out there. It grows from within, and the more you nurture it inside, the more it naturally radiates outward. And it doesn't require extraordinary circumstances, only a willingness to be present in the ordinary moments. Thich Nhat Hanh taught that each breath can be an act of love. Breathing in, we can feel gratitude for being alive. Breathing out, we can send peace to the world. This is how love becomes a thread that runs through every part of our lives, not just in big dramatic moments, but in the quiet daily choices that shape who we are. I've come to see love as a lifelong meditation. There is no finish line, no point at which we've mastered it. There are only opportunities, moment after moment, to return to it. Some days it's easy, some days it's hard, but every day it's worth it. And that's what we explore here at Mindfulness. Not just ideas, but living practices that bring more presence, compassion, and love into everyday life. If this journey has touched something in you, I invite you to keep walking with us, because when we practice love together, its light grows brighter, not just for us, but for the whole world.